My name is Melinda Hart. You are watching Stamping with Hart. I am an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up, and today we are going to be making a repeat pattern with our Stamparatus. I'm going to show you guys how to do that. And then we're going to have either the vertical or the horizontal option that you could do. And this is the Cutest Halloween Stamp Set. This is a multi-step stamp set. So just depending on how detailed you want to get with your stamp set, you can build this out. You can keep them very simple, just the line art. You can add color, you can add faces. And so that's what we're going to be doing tonight. I find that one of the easiest ways to do that is by using the Stamparatus. So that is what we're going to do. So if you haven't already liked the video or subscribed, I would really appreciate it if you would do that. That goes a long way to help. And let's go ahead and we can start making this project. So the most important thing here is your Cutest Halloween Stamp Set, but I'm going to go over a few other things that we're going to use as well. Okay, so we're going to be using our Stamparatus tonight. We're going to use both plates. Okay, so we're going to use, whenever you purchase the Stamparatus, it comes with two plates that set into these grooves right here, or we can call them hinges rather. So we're going to use both plates. We're going to maximize this. We're going to get into this, but let me know in the comments if you get a chance. Do you guys own the Stamparatus? Do you use the Stamparatus? I love this tool. I don't use it as much as I should, but when I saw Cutest Halloween, I thought absolutely. Okay, so let's go over some of the products that we're going to use. I like these. Stampin' Up has these sheets there that you can put right on top of your Stamparatus that are disposable. I like using the scrap to create my layout or our template. So we're going to go over that. So I'm going to be using a couple of these sheets here. We're going to be using our Memento Tuxedo Black ink. We're going to be using some basic white cardstock. For the vertical cards, I'm cutting the layers at 4 by 5 1/4 inches. Okay, and then our card base size is the standard card base, 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, and then scored at 4 1/4. We're also going to be using a few different things for inking. Now, for my samples, these two out of the 3 cards are with our ink. And then this, like stamped, the fill stamp is stamped with our ink. And then this one here was shaded with Stampin' Blends. Now, I'm not going to recreate this one on the live because it will just take entirely too long. But if you would like to see how I did the shading on these, just let me know and I'll be happy to do a video on that. But tonight we're going to use the fill stamp. And in order to do that, we're going to do a couple of different things. So I'm actually going to use my Stampin' Spot. So if you get the paper pumpkin kits, you get the stamp, like a Stampin' Spot every month. And if you don't have the Stampin' Spot, they have these uninked spots that you can create using your re-inkers. And I like using these smaller ink pads for the Stamparatus. They're so much easier to use if you're doing like a multicolor technique like this. But for our skeleton, I wanted to get a little fun, and I decided to use the gray granite Stampin' Write marker. Now, full disclosure, I don't own all of the colors in the Stampin' Write markers, but I do have the grays and like the neutrals. So I thought I want to try this, and I loved the way it turned out. So whether you want it to kind of look patterned or whether you want it to be more smooth, you can decide. But we're going to use pumpkin pie, basic gray, and gray granite in the Stampin' Write marker. We're going to leave our little ghost white. And if you want to put jewels on the eyes, we're also going to be using the Holiday Rhinestone Basic Jewels. Okay, in terms of the Designer Series paper, we're going to be using the Cute Halloween 6x6 Designer Series paper pack. And each one of those patterns is actually from that pack. And then some of the black glitter paper, which I can't stop using. So you're going to start with a plain piece of paper like this. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to build out your template. That's kind of how I like to do things if you're doing, you know, card layouts or what have you. So once you have, I actually stamp onto the scrap paper because once you have your template down, if you need to remove or change anything, you can do that and then just put your stamp right back on the template and it will get you right back to the same place again. So I definitely recommend that. If you want to do more than one pattern, like I did here. So this is for the horizontal pattern. And then this one is for the vertical pattern. And the only difference here is that we remove the ghost, okay? The other, in terms of the measurements and everything, the other main difference that I will go over is that when you're stamping and you have your hinges here, so let me just do this for a second here. So you can see the spacing of the hinges here. What will happen is, let's see, let me do the line art one. I think that'll be the better way to show you guys. Okay, so when we put this in, here, 3 out of the 4 are about the same size, right? They're about the same height, they're about the same size, except for our little ghost. Our little ghost is a little bit bigger. Okay, so because of that, if I were to do the very next hinge down, you can see we have some overlap. It's very slight. If you don't mind the overlap, if you think that that's cute in your pattern, that's okay. I actually did keep the overlap from the stem here, but if you don't want that, you could always just, you know, cover or mask your little stem on your pumpkin. But the spacing is slightly different. So for our horizontal card layout, it's every other notch. Okay, so every other hinge. And with our vertical one, it's every hinge. So you see like a much tighter, pattern here. So we have 2 different versions, 2 different layouts. The main difference with this one is that with everything being so tight, all you're going to do are the faces, you know, of the characters. And with the spacing here, we had some generous space that we could put some, you know, decorative elements and some embellishments or not embellishment, sentiment. And so every way you could do everything on your Stamparatus for your card layout, which is so nice. And then just add a nice little embellishment. So our spacing is slightly different. We have a little more to this one. And then with this one, it's just faces all the way down. And they're both really visually interesting. So we're going to work with this one first. And then once we remove our ghost, we'll have this exact layout here. Okay, so really, really similar. But just wanted to point those things out. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a piece of the basic white cardstock. Oh, you do have the Stamparatus? Okay. And then you haven't used it lately. That's okay, Jocelyn. It is wonderful if you're making a bunch of cards. And I think that these will cover a lot of bases, like for Halloween, whether it's something that you are making and giving to a bunch of people if you're not going to see everyone this year, or if you want to give the kids a project. It could be really fun for them to decide what colors they want them to be, if they want to make their own little, you know, ink color spots, you know, and then they can make the characters whatever they want. I think it'll be cute either way. So I'm just going to go right to the corner. I'm not even going to cut down this cardstock yet. And I'm just going to put down my, magnets. Okay. I'm going to go right to the top. So we're going to do our first hinge. And get your spacing and your characters the way that you want them. I already have mine in, you know, place. So I'm going to take my Memento Tuxedo black ink. Okay, so here we go. And we're just going to work our way down. So this side of the plate only has those 4 characters on it. I have other stamps on the other side, which we'll see in a minute. We're just going to stamp this down. One thing that I like to do is take my block and just add a little extra pressure. But if you need to go back, you can, you know, if you need to go back over it again. So now we're going to skip a notch. So we'll go every other notch. Okay, and we're just going to repeat it again. And I'm just going to move these for a second. We're going to go back to our template here. Okay, so I recommend, you know, cleaning in between, just in case if you have a narrow space like I do and you're afraid your ink stamps are going to touch something, just give them a quick clean before you flip your plate over to the other side. We're going to be using both sides of the plate tonight. Both sides of both plates, I should say. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over now. Okay. And let me take these off. I think it's going to be easier to show this way so you guys can see how I lined them up. Okay, so I'm going to just set this here. And whenever you get your template in place, like you'll position your stamps the way that you want to, whenever it's time to pick them up with the plate, we're just going to set these down, and you want the flat side with the little outline to be on top. So the bottom of the stamp is going to be facing up to us. And you'll know that you have it in place the right way whenever you can see that black ink perfectly. So it looks a little cloudy until you get it, and then you're like, there it is. Okay, so once I get it, I kind of set it down, like get it to stick to the paper a little so it doesn't move. And then we're going to get our little spider here. So cute. This guy. He reminds me a lot of the artwork that I see in a lot of the children's books. You know, Itsy Bitsy Spider and things like that. Okay, there we go. So we got the legs on that side. We just need to get the legs on that side. All right, and then we're going to put down here, have a fabulous Halloween. So same thing, just going to try to find, and it just kind of goes right into place there. There it is. Okay, and then I'm going to pick it up with my plate. I'm going to hold down my scrap paper. Okay, we're going to go back to the corner with our cardstock here. I'm going to ink this up again with my Memento Tuxedo black ink. Okay. And I can tell the way I have my magnet, it's over a little bit, so still got the impression, but it's not as crisp as I would like, so we're going to go back in one more time. If you need to stamp it over, it's perfect. Stamparatus, one of the biggest benefits, right? Okay. Okay, so there is our first version. And again, I would just recommend cleaning off your stamps just real quick. And this way, if you have to lay your plate somewhere, you won't get it on something. All right, and then we're going to bring in the next step. Okay, so we have our fill stamps here, and then we have our faces, and it's going to be the same exact concept in terms of using both sides of the plate. Okay, so I'm just going to put the hinges on for this. Now the reason why we see 3 is because I decided there is a fill stamp for your ghost. So if you want to color in your ghost, you can. I'm going to leave ours white. Okay, so just so you guys can see the reference point, this is the card, and I just left the ghost without color for the fill stamp version. So the reason why I like using these is because you don't really have to do any like masking or anything like that. You can just start to add your color. And I'm just going to get my color on there. Okay, so that's pumpkin pie. Don't mind me. I'm just dropping things. All right. This is basic gray. Basic gray is going to be our kitty cat. If you want to go darker, you can. I just chose that. I actually did orange cats on the one project. I'll show you guys. Okay, so just ink that up. I'm going to leave these open for a minute. And then for our skeleton, I'm going to use the Stampin' Right marker. I'm going to use that bigger brush tip side. I'm just kind of scribbling. Okay, I don't mind if it's not perfect. I like the pattern. I think it gives it a little bit more character, but if you don't want that, if you really want that to be smooth, just go back over that again. Okay, and then I'm just gonna line this up. Okay. And then you could do your block. And then I'm just gonna lift this. Okay, and then we're just going to do the same thing. So we'll keep skipping that hinge, and we're just going to color these in. So next we're going to do our faces. So I'm going to flip my plate one more time, and you can see I already have these lined up. We're going to use the Memento Tuxedo Black ink, okay, for our faces just all across, right? And don't let me forget to clean those stamps on the other side, those fill stamps. Try to do it between every step so I don't end up getting it somewhere, but we're not perfect, right? Okay, here we go. Gosh, you guys, isn't that so cute? Okay, so 2 here, that will become 1 card base, and then you can choose to use this for something else or use that for a second card base. I just wanted to try to fit as much as I could on the paper comfortably. All right, and now we're gonna switch out our templates. So let me pop this one on. And like I was saying, the only difference is the spacing and the removal of the ghost and the sentiments. So because our spacing is much closer, we won't need the sentiments. And when we take the ghost off, we can still leave all of the other stamps in place. So it sort of simplifies it a little bit. We don't have to move everything around and all of the different steps and that type of thing. Okay, so for this one, we're going to use the layer, which is still basic white, and it's going to be the 4 inches by 5 1/4 is the measurement on this. And then I have like 3 little marks right here, and that's where I know to kind of line this up. I wanted to try to line it up perfectly with this line, but the way I had put them on my plate, I didn't get that quite perfect. So let's just see how we do. I am lining it up with that dotted line here. Okay, I'm going to put the magnets on the lower part to start. And now we're going to start removing our ghost from each step. Okay, so I'm going to remove this guy, and we don't need the sentiments here anymore, so I can take those off unless we're going to do multiples. Okay, just going to take a look at how this looks. I'm liking how that's all lining up. Okay, so we're going to go back to our Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and we're going to do another round, this time every hinge. All right, and then I did want to mention just one more time in case you didn't see, I kept my Even though there's slight overlap on the stem, I kept it. If you don't want to keep it, you could just mask off your stem, or if you don't mind changing your stamps, you could always snip it off too. There are so many that this would actually coordinate with. I am going to use Boo, the other side, or the ghost, just in case you're interested. And I'm just going to trim this to the size of the card base here. Okay, so one thing I wanted to point out, so this is the 4 by 5 1/4 size. On this one, I actually trimmed it just a little bit closer so that we could see more of this word, the Boo pattern. So I think I just cut off about 1/8 of an inch on each side. So we'll do that again too if we need to do that. I'll show you if you feel like it covers up just a little too much. So for this piece, we're going to do 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Okay. Just going to set that aside for a moment. Let's put this onto our card base. All right, and you guys can tell me what you think. I felt like it covered up a little too much of the words if you want that Boo in there. So I am going to just trim this down a wee little bit. And here we go. So you can just kind of see a little bit more of the words. So that was basically the concept there. And let's go ahead and put this layer on. Here, I just did a repeat strip of the orange and black stripe going across, and then the "You Put a Smile on My Face" sentiment, which they're all from here. Okay, and then we have the "Have a Fabulous Halloween" in the basic black here, going straight across. So you could just, you know, choose whichever one would work for you. The eyes, like, is it just me, or like, did the eyes make it? I don't know. I just love that. I did do just a touch of coloring with the Stampin' Blends on this one too. So we did Cinnamon Cider Dark for the stems, and then I just did Daffodil Delight Dark and Pumpkin Pie Dark to fill in our little, what are these candies called? Candy corn. So let's go ahead and trim this piece out. Okay. You can see it's pretty tight here. So it looks like it's 4 7/8. Can we trim this one a little bit more? Let's see. Woo! All right, that's close. And then this way, we're doing 3 1/2. All right, so let's see what it is right now. All right, and we have 3 1/2. So we're gonna do a black glitter paper layer. And we're just gonna go up 1/4 inch from that. This might be the piece. Let's see. I was working with this earlier. Yep. Okay, so we're looking at 3 3/4 for this one. And then let's go to 5. You could go a little over 5 if you would want to. Let me just see what 5 looks like. Just want a little bit of shimmer. So we're going to cut this to the card base size again. So we're going to do 5.5. Okay. And then 4.25. All right, we'll just set that aside. And then, oh, and make sure you cut it in the direction that the pattern is going. So for our horizontal card, we want our houses to be horizontal here. Did I cut something wrong? Did I cut it 5.5 instead of 5.25? I do that all the time. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I cut it 4.5. Of course I did. All right. One more time. All right. Here we go. All right, so we're going to put this base down. We're going to do our holiday rhinestones and get some eyes on our little guys here. So for our kitty cat, we did green. Let me move this stuff out of the way here so that you can see that. Okay, so I used the small eyes, the small rhinestones. We're going to do green eyes for the cats. Try to keep them even. And then we'll do 2 more down here. Oh, you guys remember the googly eyes? The googly eyes would be really cute. If you guys have googly eyes left over, I think that was from 2 years ago, right? You have to use it on these. They would be so cute, especially on the skeletons because they have those gigantic eye sockets. Okay, so we're going to do red for the skeleton. I'm going to go into this little half circle here. I think it looks more sinister when you can see the eye socket that way. I mean, this is really, it's cuter than it is sinister, you know what I mean? But it gives just a little bit of menace there. And acceptable menace, right? And then we're going to do yellow for the pumpkin. So it kind of has that jack-o'-lantern glow. And I am going to color in those, I'm going to color this in and this in with Stampin' Blends just a little bit. You could use your Stampin' Write markers too, whatever you prefer. Now we had options for the ghost. So for the ghost, I thought that the light blue, like the crystal blue, was just prettier because it's like a very sweet ghost. It just looks so cute. So if you want to do the darker eyes, you could, just depending on what you have left. Like if you've used a lot of these, I think it would be just as cute, but I went for the softer color. I decided not to put any eyes on my little spider because just proportionally, I felt like it was going to be too big. All right, here we go. And then we're going to use Daffodil Delight Dark for the top of our little candy corn. And then we're going to do Pumpkin Pie Dark for the bottom. Okay, and it looks like I went slightly outside of the line here. Let me get my little color lifter. Just lift that out. Okay, and then let's do just a touch of cinnamon cider dark for our stems here. You could do shadows for the characters and things like that, like a glow around them with the Stampin' Blends if you would want to. So many options, you guys. Okay, you're gonna have a lot of fun with these. Okay, so we could do like Hey Boo, and then on the inside you could do the Have a Fabulous Halloween for your sentiment there. But here's just what these two look like. Okay, so just depending on if you prefer the haunted houses or the little ghost and kind of skeleton pattern there. We can actually do a couple, but I'll stop there. All right, so these two are the fill stamp versions. This one is the Stampin' Blend colored version. All right, I hope you enjoy this technique and get to use your Stamparatus. Bye.